I am Kavin Mistry from Princeton, New Jersey. Some of you probably saw a little bit of that video clip we did and whatnot. And so I'm a neuroradiologist by training. So I specialize in brain and spine imaging. So I look at people with spine issues, back pain, headache, and I've been doing that for the past 25 years. And out of that, what came out is that I've started seeing that people's bodies were aging faster than their age, and even though people externally may look like they're not aging with all our enhancements that people are getting, right? But I tell people that you can't lie to me on my screen because I see you from the inside out. You know what I'm saying? And so the disconnect I see is, we kind of portray a very young version of ourselves to society through all the stuff we do. I'm saying nothing wrong with that. I'm all for that. If you want to go for the enhancements, do whatever you need to do, but do not think that that's de-aging yourself. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Because that comes from an inside-out approach. Because once you show up on my screen, I can tell you how old you are, okay? And so I have 40, 50-year-olds who show up on my screen and they have bodies that look like 60, 70-year-olds, okay? And so I started asking, what's the disconnect? What are we dealing with here? And so over the past 25 years, I started picking up these disconnections. Why are people disconnecting with their health? What are the factors that are coming into play? And it's boiled down to about 7 areas which I think come into play, or in 7 paradigms. And so I said, let's launch a book to summarize that. So the book is launching July 8th. And so it's called Primal Health Design. It's 7 key paradigms to reverse our biological age, okay? And so today, what I'll do is I will give you a glimpse of how our environment and healing spaces has a lot to do with how our body behaves and ages, okay? And I know because Ali and Peter, and they wanted me to speak because we are here in Lotus Living. Thank you, Ali, for inviting myself, my wife, with the art show and everything like that. And but I just wanted to add value back and see that how spaces around us also play a role in healing us, okay? And so as we start here, I'll say, I'm going to ask you a question, and I want to think about it, is how alive do you think you are right now? If I say number 1 to 10, how alive do you think you are? Any number? 10.
9.
9. Any number?
I was thinking 8, but now I feel like
Yeah.
going.
We're doing a countdown. No. All right, no. So, but what if I said you're only half alive? Would that disturb you?
Yeah.
A little bit? Yes. So my goal is to give you the rest of the 50% today. Okay. I believe there are 7 switches that if you flip on, you could go from being half alive to fully alive. Okay. And I'll explain what I mean by that. Okay. So one of the things is, let's do a quick. I'm going to prove this to you, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay. Everybody, just hold up your thumbs like that. Okay, and just point your thumb outwards and point your thumbs towards me, and make a circle with both your thumbs like that. Okay. Pretty easy, right? Pretty easy, pretty good control, okay? Now, put your thumbs in, you put your index finger and do a circle, okay? Little bit harder, yes, than the thumbs, would you say? A little bit more difficult, okay? All right. Now, put your hands like this and bend your ring finger. And Ali, come up here. Let me show you something. All right. So I will have Ali up here. Okay. So put your hands up, put your ring finger, and try to do a circle with your ring finger. Lot more difficult. Yes, you cannot. Can you do a circle? Not really. It's not a circle. It's more like an irregular some thingamajig. Okay. So as Ali is doing this, okay, I'm just going to use you as a model. Okay, please. Okay. So as Ali is doing this, okay, I'm going to show you something. All right. And you don't have to keep doing it. I'm just going to illustrate something. Okay. As Ali is doing this, right, her finger, the sensation and the movement from the finger, right, is sending feedback from her arm up to her spine here, right, which is going all the way up to part of her brain that controls that finger. Okay. Now, believe it or not, our whole hand is mapped in a part of our brain, in our kind of a motor sensory strip. Okay, I'm in neuro, so I'm going to give you a little bit of science here, right there, right? But your whole hand is mapped here, okay? Which means that technically you should be able to do this and this with all your fingers. But why do you think we cannot do it with this finger? What do you think?
You haven't practiced that?
So I come from a lineage of woodworkers. My family used to make furniture, right? And they use their hands like all day, so, sawing wood, sanding wood, and all that. And if you look at my great grandfather's hands, right? Super dexterous. They could do what you can do with your thumb, they could do with all fingers, okay? Because they were constantly holding on to chisels and then things like that, right? Why do you think our thumbs are more active than all the other fingers? What would you say?
I'm texting.
So the idea here is that if you don't use it, you lose it. Okay, and so the thing is, the wiring is there, right? The wiring is there, the hardware is there, but the input and engagement with what that is not there. So what I meant by you're only half alive is you're really only 2 fingers alive. Am I making sense? You're actually starting to lose your fingers in a way. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, if people had I'm going to have you have a seat. I'm going to have her come up there. Come on. Because you're not wearing shoes. That's why I want to show something.
Do you need my shoes or what?
No, I don't want your shoes. That's perfect that you don't have your shoes on. There. So watch this. So if I told you that I want you to selectively move your 4th toe, could you do it? Just move your 4th toe up. Could you do it? No, right? Very tough. Like just your 4th toe, could you do it? No, right? So you see, as she's trying to do it, all her toes move. Okay? At some point, we were able to move all 4-5 toes independently.
That's great.
Okay? Why do you think we're not able to do that anymore?
You don't have to.
Shoes. We wear shoes.
We wear shoes, and what happens is, in her case, and this is all of us. I'm just using her as an example. This is I don't think I can move my toe either. So I'm not trying to say that we can do it and she can.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm hyper-focused.
Yeah. But so the signal from pain, like pain sensation, tactile sensation, temperature sensation from all these toes are going up her leg, up to her spine. And again, there is a part of your brain there where your whole foot is mapped. But your foot is even more dead than your other 3 fingers. You see what I'm saying? Now it's not even acting as if it has 5 digits. It's acting almost like it's just one. You just have 1 finger. Am I making sense? So a lot of times for most people, it's like your toe and the rest of the foot, because there is no differentiation anymore. Your feet are not touching the ground and feeling like gravel and like that. Your fingers are never separate because you're always wearing a socks, you're always wearing shoes. And like they said, So you can have a seat.
Thank you.
So that's the idea. This is how we don't die all of a sudden like that. You die in installments because parts of your system are just dying. And when I say we're biologically aging faster, this is what I mean. That parts of us start dying and you don't even realize it until you start to use it. You start to, when I told her to move that finger, you guys try it at home. Go ahead, just try to move each of your toes separately. It's a very, very difficult task, okay? So one part of, I come from the Eastern culture, and one part of yoga, one exercise in yoga that we do is going through all those points in our body that have movement like that. And part of it is going through each of your fingers. And you don't even need to move your fingers, but to selectively activate each of those fingers and each of the toes separately, because you want to keep that system alive. Otherwise, it just becomes like one, you got like two toes and two fingers, okay? Am I making sense?
Yeah.
So you may think you're fully alive, but you're not. Parts of you are dying, okay? And I don't mean that in a morbid way, but I mean that in a more of a wake-up call, okay? That if you don't start engaging these systems, you start losing these systems, okay? And that's my whole focus, is to raise that awareness for people, because if you're not aware of that, you're going to start aging from the inside, and you may look pretty, but you just functionally, you're just aging, okay? So how do we use our environment to control or mitigate this aspect of life that's this aging process, right? So one aspect is that we talked about engagement with our tactile engagement, right? So one is that have barefoot walks when possible, okay? If you can't go to a beach, maybe find a trail or find a grass patch where your fingers can separate and move independently. Then they're getting the feedback and you're keeping that system alive. Very, very important. Because if you keep that input alive, that part of your brain stays alive. And here, we all have the wiring, but there's no input, so the whole thing is just like on decay mode, okay? So that is one aspect of engagement with your environment, is to have that tactile input, okay? Hands, feet, barefoot walks. Second aspect is when we talk about our body and alignment, I want to just jump on that, okay? Is that, Ali, I'm going to have you come up here one more. Bring your phone. Okay. All right. So if you want to check your message, just show me, just your normal stance, show me checking your message. Okay, that's Ali checking her message. I'm going to just look at Ali checking her message, okay? Now, if I were to say Ali checking her message, and if you were to give me a number from 1 to 10 in terms of, you don't need to give me a number, just think of this in your head, in terms of her, we give people like a power rating, like in terms of her prowess or power, right? Well, if you were to give me a power rating on her, just think of a number. Don't yell it out. Just think of it right now. I'm gonna do some exercise with her. Okay, think of that number. Just hold that number in your head. Okay. Now, one of the things you'll see in terms of posture, right? Okay, is we all do this, right? We all do this. We all look similar. Would you agree? Okay. And one of the things that's happening for us in society is now, because of engagement with the phone, okay, you can see what happens with her neck goes forward and down, yes? So for every inch that your head goes forward and down, there's 10 extra pounds of weight on your neck muscles, okay? So your neck is struggling to keep the head up, okay? So if she goes 2 inches, that's 20 pounds, 3 inches, that's 30 pounds, 30 pounds pulling down. Imagine you strapped a rope and you hung 30 pounds from your head. That's how much your muscles in your back are struggling, right? So what do we do? And so that's aging us. It's aging our spine. And once that starts happening, you get neck pain, she starts getting tension here. Sometimes does that happen?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And you start degenerating your spine. The tension is okay, the muscle ache is okay, but then the degeneration, you can't reverse it. That's what I see on my screen, right? So you have 30-year-olds with spine disease, and you're like, what the heck is happening, right? And it's because of this little toy we carry around all the time, all right? So how do we fix this, okay? And how do we fix it with our environment, okay? I'm gonna give you little tips, okay? So one thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna put your phone down, is I want you to put your index finger on your neck. I want you to move your neck back as much as possible. See, like that, okay? And then just relax, just keep it like that. So you see what happened like that. Just when she was here, her ear was here, right? Now when she pushes it back, you see how her ear aligns with her shoulder? You see what I'm saying? Okay? And then I want you to do one more thing, okay? You can see that her shoulders are rotated anteriorly like this, okay? You can see, right? So she's still not fully aligned. So what I want you to do is pull your shoulders back and down, and then move your scapula down. So like it would be like this motion, like that. See that? Okay, so like that. Okay, and then keep your head like that. Okay, so now what happens? Her ears, shoulders, and her hip are all aligned. Okay, and then what I want you to do, one more thing, is just lightly squeeze your glutes so your feet move out, just like that. Okay, so once she did that, her ears, shoulders, hips, knees, and ankles all get aligned. Okay. And what that happens is now when we have an energy transfer, now when she walks, from a power rating, when somebody looks at her now, will probably think she is much more healthier and has more power. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Because primally we were designed to pick up a predator who has more threat and less threat. How do I know somebody has more threat? If they have a power stance, right? If they don't have a power stance, I'm like, oh, this guy's weak, I can take him. Am I making sense? So right away when she does this, from perception wise, when you walk in with proper posture, people see you as having more power, okay? So that's what she did. But from a health point of view, okay, is when her load is transferring now all the way up to her head, her spine is protected now. She's not going to age her spine like with the forward head posture like that, okay? Have a seat. Thank you. So now people will say, like, how do I walk? Keep my, how do I walk around? Do I like walk around like this, But here's the thing, right? Here's the thing is that when you start opening those muscles up in the back, you don't need to think about it. Naturally, your spine will align. If I work out my neck in a way that I work on those extenders in the back and the rotators, naturally my neck is going to stay in a more of a healthier position. Okay, so what can we do in our environment to help this aspect? Okay, so one is that obviously when you engage with your phone, try to keep it up to eye level. Okay, so we can design desks that are more stand-up desks, and your eyesight should hit the middle of the screen. Okay, if you have to look up too high, you're going to get a little bit of neck tension. If it's too low, also it's not good. Try to do that. The other thing is that in our environment, what we can do, like in my house, I have a pull-up bar right outside my office, right? So as I walk out for any bathroom break, I just hang. And you just hang for like 30 seconds. And what the hanging does is that it activates your back muscles back there. So as soon as I hang, it activates those muscles. So after you hang and you sit down, automatically your shoulders are going to be like this. So you don't have to think about it. You don't have to be like, keep doing this. Automatically when you hang, you're going to have that stance, okay? The other part is that I have large yoga ball that I have in one area. When I get a break, I will just lie on that yoga ball, just like this, and like fully extend my arms. So my whole thoracic spine is extended, because all day I'm like this. I want moments where my spine is extended and I open that up. Okay, very, very important. So if you're designing spaces, if you're working from home, or when we do this on a corporate level, okay, and our goal is to kind of bring a program like this to the corporate. When we do this, you want the workspace to have these opportunities where people can reset in their break, and when they come back, everything is aligned. Okay. One other thing I would add is that if you want to, you remember I told her to kind of flex her glutes and her pelvic tilted and align herself. So one thing you can do in the morning is have a routine where you can just squat down. Let's say you're warming up your coffee or your tea, and you just kind of like squat down and stay in a squat for a few minutes, and let those pelvic muscles relax, so that once you do a squat and you come up, your pelvis naturally will want to stay in that angle. You guys with me? Okay. So those are easy fixes. So when you work on that and you're doing this every day, slowly your posture is getting to that power posture. Okay. So that's one aspect of engaging with our body. Okay. And so that's switch number 2, right? One was tactile, I mentioned that, right? Number 2 was the posture, how we deal with our body. Okay. Next is environment in terms of your kitchen. How can it add to your health? Okay. And one of the things that is very important is that when you have a kitchen, it should not be just to warm up microwave meals. Okay. Right. I say have a live kitchen. And what I mean by a live kitchen is that you should have something growing in your kitchen, in a sense like, are you sprouting something? Do you have a small pot with some herbs or something? Because life feeds life, right? And what we've seen, and you look at yogic literature, you look at Ayurveda, you look at all these ancient texts on how foods feeds us. It's not just the calories and the macro and micros and protein and carbs. There is a component in live food that is feeding you as life that we still don't know how to put our finger on it from a scientific point of view. Okay, in yoga it's referred to as is a term called Ojas, Ojos. Okay, Ojas means life force, and what they believe is that when you take, let's say we're going to have beans or lentils for dinner. Okay, if I take the same lentils, soak it for like 2 days and let them sprout, the lentils now are alive. Yes, because they sprouted, right? There's the whole biochemical makeup of that lentil changed in those 2 days, because everything is recruited to now be alive, right? Now when you eat the lentils, okay, you're imbibing, I would say, life, or that ojas that you need, and that is definitely aiding in terms of de-aging you. Am I making sense? So one of the things that in Indian households you'll see a lot is they're always going to be sprouting something, and they're always going to eat something sprouted all the time. Okay, and the second aspect is that our body is more bacteria than human cells. How many know that? Does that surprise anybody what I just said? We are more bacteria cells than human cells. Okay, so that we are actually just more of a guest in our body, because most of it is all bacteria. When you take a look at all the skin microbiome and our gut bacteria and whatnot. So when your gut buddies are happy, you are happy. And if they're not happy, that's the issue. Okay, you're going to age faster. So one of the other things in Eastern households you'll see is that there will always be something fermenting in the house. Okay, something fermented foods. Either it's kimchi, we do a lot of pickles and things like that. So when you're fermenting, again, that is also you're creating life, right? You're manufacturing bacteria. And when you ingest those bacteria, they're adding to that gut microbiome. So you're feeding that life, and you're feeding life through that Ojas that I was talking about, okay? So a live kitchen, very, very important, okay? So that's 3, right? Number 4 is what we call is the mind-body connection, okay? And one of the things that's important to have in your house, okay, is I know you have that meditation room downstairs, right? And which is awesome. But what I would suggest is that find one spot in your house which you can dedicate to just sit down for silence, okay? I don't even use the word meditation, because when I say meditation, most people cannot comprehend the depth of what that means. And in fact, in Eastern culture, in the yogic culture, when we say meditation, they just laugh, because there's so many levels of meditation that, there's dhyana, dharana, samadhi, and all that. So when you say meditation, it's like saying, oh, I'll take that whole stack of books. You know what I'm saying? Because there's so much depth to it. Okay, so but let's just call it stillness, okay? When you have stillness and you have a dedicated space, what happens is that we are being impacted by the environment, but what's amazing is that you also impact the environment, okay? And here's what I mean by that, is that what the yogic culture or the Eastern yogic principles believe is that there is a part of us, that's the physical part of us, and then there is what we call is our sensory body, okay, that we project, which almost extends about 18 inches outside of us, okay? So we're impacting our environment all around us as we walk around, okay? And so when you start meditating or having silence on a cushion or a space, that space also starts imbibing you in a way, okay? And what we found is, now they're able to prove it with different types of photography and different types of scans, is that when you get off a chair, there is still an imprint of you in that chair in some form. You have impacted that chair, if it's particularly like an organic component, like if it's a pure cotton. So a lot of times what people will use is they'll use a mat. In India, there'll be a cotton cover, and there'll be straw, like natural straw inside, okay, a straw mat, okay? And you can still find it if you go to a real traditional Eastern yogic place and you ask, they will have real straw mats. And when the purpose of that is that when you sit on that day after day, it starts imbibing your aura or that aspect of you that's there. And then when you sit on it again, you don't have to work that hard to meditate. It automatically knows you, and it will just take you in, okay? Am I making sense? So having a dedicated space and so one of the things people never do in India is they never share their mat with anybody. Their meditation cushion, they will not share it with anybody, because now it has your signature on it, okay? And if somebody sits on it, it will disturb them, and if you use somebody else's, your physiology will be confused, So if I can give you a tip, is that if you're going to do a silence practice or anything like that, find a space that's dedicated to you, okay? And keep a cushion or something organic there that's just for you, okay? And if you're sharing with your wife, get her another cushion, you know what I'm saying? So that's our 4th point, right? Having a silent space in your house, okay? Number 5, okay, as we move forward, okay, is this idea of alignment, okay? And what I tell people is that there should be a space in your home where what I call is a flow space. Is all of us have an activity we can do where you can totally lose yourself, right? Have you noticed that? Like it's very different for different people. For example, for my older son, his thing is piano, right? He can play piano and he's just lost. He's you can't find him. He's just in this different zone, And for some people it may be gardening, for some people it may be dance or whatnot. And what I find is that when you have an activity where you can lose yourself into, it is one of the most healing things you can do for yourself. That state of flow, okay, allows you to be in a space where all of this that is happening around you, right? Let's say, job issues, job stress, family stress, thinking about the past, thinking about the future. All of a sudden, if you think about your thought process and think about any thought you have right now, and if I tell you to categorize it, it will fall in one of two places, right? It will be either regret of the past or anxiety of the future. Am I right? You're either thinking about something that's coming up that you're a little bit anxious about. I gotta go do this. I gotta pick up this. I gotta get, I hope this happens. Or something. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I can't believe he said that to me. Or like, you understand? Like, it's either regrets of the past or anxieties of the future. But we're never in the now here. Okay. And when you can drop into flow, you drop those two. And you go in the state where you're just there, and it's so therapeutic for you. Okay, so I would say that build a flow space that is unique to you, because I don't know what it is for you that makes you come alive. For me, it happens when I'm teaching students, or I'm talking to people, because I enjoy it, and it's something that comes natural to me, and it's something that I can just ride that wave and be in it. Okay, but like I said, for you it may be writing a book or gardening, but find that flow space, create that so you can escape. And it's so therapeutic. You come home, give yourself 10 minutes. Let's say it's piano. Sit down on a piano for 10 minutes and just get lost for 10 minutes. And I'll tell you, all that stress and anxiety, all that's kind of amped up during the day, it starts melting away, and you'll just come alive in those 10 minutes and then continue. Okay, so flow space. Okay, and we'll end with two more, and we'll wrap this up, and I'll take some questions. Okay, the next space we enter, okay, is the idea of having a tribe, or having authentic communications. Okay, and studies are showing, and this is no surprise to, I'm sure, all of you, that the more digitally connected we are externally, the more lonely we are internally. Okay, and it's more true for teenagers than adults. Okay, because they have this false sense of connection, because they think that I have so many friends on Facebook, or so many digital connections on any other platform, TikTok and whatnot, that I am very popular, but inside you're just very lonely, right? And so a key ingredient here is developing spaces for authentic connections. Okay, and that's what Peter, come here. Peter, come here. I want to show. So one of the things is, I figured I used everybody else for a demo. Why not you, right? So remember what I said, 18 inches. Remember, you are not stop. You don't stop here. You're actually 18 inches out. Okay. So think about it. If me and Peter meet for coffee, and we're having a close conversation, right? Like you can if you look at me and Peter sitting on a table, our 18 inches are overlapping. Am I making sense? So I'm actually on a very, very almost on a physical level, there is a communication that goes on here when I'm in this space, okay? Which I cannot duplicate on Zoom or Google Meet or anything like that, because this does not happen, okay? And so whatever he's bringing with him is communicating with my biology, and my biology is communicating with him. So if I want to truly connect, okay, is that we have to create this connection. I'm not talking I need to stick to him, but I just need to have that overlap where allow for the communication, okay? And so you see that in studies that people show that when people meet face to face, your hormone profile changes. Okay, your oxytocin level goes up. Have you heard of that? That's the bonding hormone. Okay, but it only happens when there is a connection like this. Okay, and it doesn't even need to be. We don't even need to exchange words. We could be in the same space enjoying something together, but that communication is still there. Okay, it's so important. If any of you have kids, okay, don't talk to your kid like if he's sitting on a sofa. Don't talk to him like that. Go sit next to him and just be there in that space. And because if you have good intentions about somebody and you have positive intentions about somebody, and let's say we were meeting and we were trying to create something great, and we're both on a positive, it will compound both our energies. We will meet in that space automatically, and there's synergy. And so if you have a good intention towards your family, towards your child or whatnot, be with them, okay? And automatically you'll impact them, and they won't even know it that you did that, okay? So having a space in your, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Having a space in your house where you can be in proximity, okay? So what we did in my house is we actually created a restaurant booth. You know how those traditional restaurants where you have those two benches and you can be like really up close, you know. So we have like a round dining table where we can all be close. But then even more, if I'm having a one-on-one conversation with people, I have a restaurant booth which places us same distance that I was with Peter. All of us were like this, and automatically it's a great place where if I want to sit down, talk to my wife, talk to my son or whatnot, and it's not about the words, it's about the space, okay? So important to create spaces like that, because everywhere else you're so lonely, you're so disconnected. When are you going to be in a space where you can really communicate with people, okay? So having a space where this conversation can transpire is so important, okay? And so I would say that if you're going to make a deal with somebody and you're going to really like it, you should curate an environment where you can be in that type of a space rather than Zoom. I'll tell you, you will get so much more out of it, okay? And I'm sure you've seen that in your interactions, yes? Right, all the time, right? Peter, you agree, right? Face to face, okay? It's that sometimes the reverse can happen too, where on Zoom everything looks great. The guy looks great, right? And we've done that. We do pre-interviews for candidates for our group because we run a residency program, so we pre-interview candidates, and then we'll do a pre-interview on Zoom, and then we'll bring them in for an in-house interview. And on Zoom, everything looks great, credentials are great, everything like that. But when that person enters your space, you're just like, oh, you know, there's something. I'm not sure. You know, I don't know. I get this vibe. I get this gut feeling. That intuition is very, very important, because your physiology is reacting to that person's physiology, right? So that gut feeling, don't ignore it. It is actually a much higher level of intelligence that's trying to talk to you. Okay, and there's a whole science behind that. I actually talk about it in the book, but you guys can read about it when it comes out. And so we'll wrap up with one last piece, and then we'll do some questions, and then we will end here. So this last piece is what I call a legacy space. Okay, and I guess to explain this, I have to fill you in on some backstory. So I lost my parents over a span of 2 years. Okay, my dad passed away, and a year and a half my mom passed away. My dad passed away in 2024, and so my dad got lymphoma, and he got treated, but then it recurred, and you know, after a while he had a lot of complications, and so during some of his last few days, we were I went to go visit him, okay, and he's sitting next to me, and I'm sitting next to him on the bed, and he goes Kavin, he goes, your greatest gift is the fact that you can give. And he goes, if you keep giving, you'll always have more to give. And he goes, look at me, there's nothing I can take with me, right? Because at that point he had signed over his house, signed over all his accounts, and everything. He's basically owned nothing. You know, he was just in a hospital room, and only possession he had was his cell phone. That was the only thing, okay? And when you think about it, we don't really own anything, right? We're not taking anything with us, right? And so, you know, we spend all our life trying to just collect things, right? You're trying to build a portfolio, build a bigger house, get more cars. I'm nothing wrong with that. I'm all for that, okay? But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, and you realize that I'm not taking any of this with us, he goes, the only thing that will matter is how much you gave, because that's the only imprint you'll leave behind, okay? And it really made me think. You know, I went into my car and I was just bawling, and I was just like, yeah, I felt like I'd spent 40 some odd years of my life just chasing all these things, right? And just accumulating bigger portfolio, better car, bigger house, all this stuff. And then he said, your greatest gift is the fact that you can give. And then so it made me question, what was I giving? Right? I was busy accumulating all this stuff, but what was I giving, right? And I had to really answer that for myself. I said, like, what am I giving? You know? And so I took inventory of, like, what can I get? What can I give, first of all? So this book, for 20 some odd years, I've been write a book. And that day I said, that's it. I opened up my laptop. I said, we're gonna write this damn thing, okay? And I tell you, 9 months later, I wrote the whole book, okay? Because I said
When he was born.
I said we're gonna launch this thing. But here's what I'm gonna leave you with, is that your greatest gift is what you can give, is the fact that you can give, okay? And maybe it's your time, you know, at a shelter, or maybe it's your time to your kids. Maybe it's your knowledge. In my case, that, you know, I'm trying to give you that, okay? Whatever it is, just figure out what is that factor for you. And maybe it's your writing, okay? Or maybe it's you're very talented at cooking, and maybe you can teach people how to cook, okay? I don't know what it is. I just, you know, everybody's very different, okay? But whatever it is, okay, find a space in your house that's like your legacy space. Because let's fast forward 100 years from now, none of us will be here, right? But what's the imprint from you that will remain, okay? Is it a book? Is it something, right? What is the imprint, okay? And if you think about it, if you think about that, it changes. What happens is, in your body, your biology changes. Because if we don't question that, what happens is we fritter our time away in just useless stuff. You know, especially now with, like, YouTube shorts and all this short content. Very, it's very attractive. Like I turn on my phone, I'm like, 10 minutes, 15 minutes go by, I'm like, what the heck happened, you know? But then I would question myself, and if you ask yourself, what's my imprint? It will bring you back to that legacy and say, you know, let me do something that 100 years from now, somebody will say, oh, I'm so glad that he left something behind that made a difference, okay? And one of my mentors, business mentors, I'll end with this quote. He used to say, you know, how many people are better off because you lived? He goes, that was his only criteria for a successful life. He goes, my idea of a successful life is how many people are better off because I lived. And so if you use that definition, it will really revamp how you approach life and how you live your day, and you know, find a space where you can do that type of creative work or legacy work, and I think it will transform your life. So as a wrap up, we went through 7 elements, okay? I hope some of them impacted you in a way that makes a difference. The book gets into more of this in a more deeper way, but Ali, wonderful space, you know, and I'm sure people will imbibe some of these elements through here. And that's it for my speech here. I hope you had a good time. Yeah.